The Unlovely Truth discusses what happens at the intersection of faith and true crime, so some of our topics may be a little difficult for young or sensitive listeners. Please use your discretion. Jessica Lundsford, Tori Stafford, and Hailey Dunn are young girls who each went missing from different areas in different years. But they all have one shocking thing in common. Their disappearances did not meet the criteria for an Amber Alert to be issued in time. I didn't know that the facts surrounding a missing child's disappearance have to check off the right boxes on a form before that child's inexplicable absence can be made known to the public with an Amber Alert. One of these innocents did finally get her Amber Alert. It was issued 9 days after she went missing, which was 9 days too late for her. Welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of The Unlovely Truth. We all know what an Amber Alert is, but I'm guessing that not everyone knows the young girl that the system is named for. 9-year-old Amber Renee Hagerman had brown hair, brown eyes, and a sprinkling of freckles across her nose and cheeks. On January 15th, 1996, she was riding her bike with her younger brother Ricky while they visited their grandparents in Arlington, Texas. They were told to stay within a block of their grandparents' house, but the lure of the local Winn-Dixie grocery store caused them to venture a block further. Ricky got worried about not following orders, so he told his sister that he was going back to the house. Amber didn't follow him. When he returned home alone, he was promptly sent back to fetch Amber, but by the time he traveled those 2 short blocks, she was gone. A witness told police that he saw a young man force Amber into a truck before speeding away. Despite incredible efforts by both law enforcement and volunteers, Amber was not recovered safely. Her body was found 4 days later, and her case is still unsolved. In response to this devastating tragedy, Dallas police quickly set up what they called the Amber Plan. Other states followed, naming their rescue plans after children they had lost. But it took until 2005 for all 50 states to have operational programs up and running. In 2002, Canada launched their plan, and by 2004, it was adopted across all of the Canadian provinces. Mexico and Australia have launched programs, as has France, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Malaysia, Ecuador, Russia, and other countries around the world. Here in America, the U.S. Department of Justice recommends that a missing child meet 5 criteria to have an Amber Alert issued. The first criteria is that there is a reasonable belief by law enforcement that an abduction has occurred. Second, the law enforcement agency believes that the child is in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death. Third, there's enough descriptive information about the victim and the abduction for law enforcement to issue an Amber Alert that will assist in the recovery of the child. Fourth, the abduction is of a child aged 17 years or younger. And fifth, the child's name and other critical data elements, including the child abduction flag, have been entered into the National Crime Information Center system, what we know as the NCIC. I get that there has to be a standard, that you have to have guidelines. And I do understand the criticisms from people who say that if you issue too many alerts, they're going to lose their urgency and people won't take them as seriously as they should. But time is such a critical factor in successfully recovering a missing child. According to the Attorney General's office in the state of Washington, in 76% of the missing children homicide cases studied, so keep in mind, these aren't all missing children, just the ones who were known to have been murdered. The abducted child dies within the first 3 hours of the abduction. That's in 76% of missing child homicide cases. And in over 88% of those cases, the child was dead within 24 hours. So imagine that you're a parent or a guardian of a missing child who you fear was abducted. You need help, and you need it now. And you realize that getting the necessary help as quickly as possible is completely dependent on the restrictions and limitations placed on local law enforcement authorities. It's really the luck of the draw for your child if the jurisdiction they go missing from has adequate resources to deal with a child abduction very, very quickly. In just a few seconds, we will go back to Jessica, Tori, and Hailey's stories to see how these factors affected their cases. You definitely want to check back in with me next week when I interview Julia Chantry, author of The Amber Gap, a free report that you can get that explores what can be done for missing kids who don't fit the criteria to have an Amber Alert issued. In the interest of full disclosure, I do work with Julia in Operation Amber, and I may be compensated if you buy any of the resources that it offers. But remember, the Amber Gap report is free, so check my website or the show notes to see where you can get your copy. Now let's get back to our story. Jessica Lundsford was 9 years old when she was abducted in the early morning hours of February 24, 2005. John Evander Cooey, who lived nearby with relatives, entered the trailer where Jessica lived through an unlocked door, entered Jessica's bedroom, and told her not to yell and to follow him out of her home. He took Jessica back with him to the nearby trailer he shared with a half-sister, sexually assaulted Jessica, and kept her in a closet for several days before burying her alive. Despite his previous arrest for molesting a 5-year-old girl, Cooey had not registered with the local authorities as a sex offender, as the law required him to do. In Jessica's case, because she was abducted with no witnesses to describe her assailant, there wasn't enough information to have an Amber Alert issued. Tori Stafford was walking home from school by herself for the very first time on April 8th of 2009 in Woodstock, Ontario, Canada. The third grader was approached by 18-year-old Terry Lynn McClintock, who put the young girl at ease by talking about the Shih Tzu dogs they both had. Terry Lynn knew about Tori's dog because her family was acquainted with Tori's. Little Tori didn't know this, but Terry Lynn's mother supplied drugs to Tori's mother. Terry Lynn lured Tori to her car at the urging of her boyfriend, Michael Rafferty. Within minutes, they whisked Tori away from Woodstock. By the time all of the necessary information was collected and entered into the required systems, the Amber Alert that was issued was too late. Tori had already been sexually assaulted and beaten to death. Hailey Dunn was 13 years old when she went missing in 2010. Hailey lived in Colorado City, Texas with her mother, brother, and her mom's new live-in boyfriend, Sean Adkins. 2 days after Christmas, since school was still out for the holidays, Hailey was busily trying to make plans with her friends. Her brother left to spend the night with a friend, and her mother was also gone, leaving Hailey with Sean. When Hailey's mother returned home, Adkins told her that Hailey had walked to her father's house, and she might have plans to spend the night with a friend. This lie delayed Hailey being reported as a missing child. When she was, authorities assumed that Hailey was a runaway and followed the 24-hour rule, which is a myth. No state requires a 24-hour waiting period before searching for a minor. No Amber Alert was ever issued, and more than 2 years passed before Hailey's remains were found. Each of these young girls fell into what next week's guest calls the Amber Gap. You won't want to miss hearing about her ambitious plan to help families who find themselves in the same terrifying situation as Jessica, Tori, and Hailey's did. At the end of last season, I mentioned that in addition to telling the stories of victims and their families, I would also be having a greater emphasis on encouraging all of you listeners and myself to leave a legacy by getting involved in service in the true crime world. I'm going to be highlighting opportunities that you may not even know about. And one of those is to get involved with Operation Amber. It all starts with getting your free copy of The Amber Gap, so please go do that right now. It'll be a great way to start off the new year. The Unlovely Truth is written and produced by me, Lori Morrison. Music is by Neocortex, and artwork is by Shelby Highland. Thanks for listening. I'll see you all next week.